Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Rob here, joined by Davian. Davian, conference finals are upon us. The second round for both the NBA and NHL have both wrapped up. And Davian, NHL lacked a little bit. NBA had its entertaining moments, but now we're finally in the conference finals. And I think across the NHL and NBA, we got some really, really good matchups that are going to be really fun to watch. But before we get into those, as always, Davian, how are you? I know you have to be feeling at least somewhat good that the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals. They made it this far, but obviously they got the Cavs at hand and they got to take care of business starting tonight. Tuesday night is recording this and hopefully take care of business pretty nicely before going into the buzzsaw. That is either the Spurs or the Thunder.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy the Knicks are here. I think that the end goal, though, for every Knicks fan is to make it to the final. I don't think that we'll be satisfied with the season unless the Knicks are in the final. I think that is just the general sentiment with most Knicks fans. This is the weakest the Eastern Conference has ever been. That being said, this is a great Cavs team, and I can't wait to watch the game tonight. It being that we're recording on May 19th. And then we'll get more into the other conference finals. But with that being said, Raffi, how have you been? I know that both of our NHL brackets are not really turning out to be exactly what we expected, but I think it's still been fun to watch.
Yeah, second round wasn't as good as the first round, I will say. Carolina swept Philly. Most of those games were pretty close, but again, similar to the Ottawa series, Carolina just a notch better than the Flyers, and the Flyers even playing their best games. The Hurricanes still wound up winning those games. Then you had the Wild Avalanche, which we were both disappointed didn't go longer than the 5 games. I definitely would have loved to have seen it go to a Game 6 or go the full distance as well in a Game 7. But it is what it is. It was overall pretty competitive, but again, especially that Game 5 where the Wild had the lead, then they blew it. It was just disappointing because I think we all wanted to see that series go for sure 7 games. And then over on the East, you had, and we'll get into these series a little bit more obviously, but Sabres-Canadiens by far the best series of the second round by far. And then you also had the Ducks-Vegas where the Vegas experience really showed off there, and they were able to take care of business with the Ducks. But David, we'll start with the NBA first and get more in depth. And I want to hear your thoughts because I guess we'll just start with probably one of the teams that was the most disappointing. And obviously, there's a lot of reasons for why this team fell to lower expectations, and that's the Detroit Pistons, especially after talking a lot of trash on Twitter. They rightfully got what they had used against them then by the Cavs Twitter. So, Davian, what were your thoughts? What went wrong for the Pistons? Obviously, the Cade injury. Obviously, Cade can't do it all himself, but that's just my outside perspective. As someone who's been watching most of the games and has been keeping more tabs on it than I have, what really was the key here for the Cavs to really... It was surprising with just how badly they beat down the Pistons in Detroit for Game 7. It was really surprising.
Yeah, I think a lot of it came down to just really the depth and just there are players on the Pistons that just did not step up that need to step up, and just really issues with shooting. I mean, when you're shooting Game 7, 35% from the field, that's not a game you're going to win at all in any sense of the word. And of course, injuries was a huge factor. I think that's the biggest factor of it all. The issue with an injury is not that just one player. The issue is that it completely changes the game. It changes the chemistry of the team, all in all. And so, with that being said, though, I think it's just Jalen Duren just played awful. I sneezed, so it's true. And Tobias Harris did not play well either. The bench, again, the depth is a big issue. I think that with the Cavs, you saw a guy like Sam Merrill step up in Game 7 and score 25. That's what I think was the missing piece for the Pistons.
Yeah, and you look at the rest of the second round too. Obviously, that was probably the best series out of the 4. But we can go over to the Knicks. Knicks take care of business with the 76ers. This was pretty expected. Obviously, the 76ers did have that great comeback versus the Celtics. Took care of business there, but it just seemed like they were just not on the same level as the Knicks. They played a couple close games, but it really did feel like there's a gap between those two teams. And the 76ers were playing well above a 7 seed in the first round versus Celtics, played a lot more like a 7 seed in that second round versus the Knicks.
Yeah, it's just the 76ers really lost their juice, and I think that there's just like some nights the Knicks wouldn't miss anything. I mean, they could have chucked it up full court and probably made it. And I think that just goes to show the Knicks' offensive prowess, which I think is what we're going to see against the Cavs tonight, and in the games going forward.
Yep. And then moving on over to the West, Spurs take care of the Timberwolves. Thunder sweep the Lakers. Thunder over the Lakers. Would have expected the Lakers to potentially steal a game potentially from the Thunder, but the Thunder are the Thunder. Yeah. They've just been... they just completely took control of the series. And then the Spurs, Timberwolves had some good games, but overall the Spurs were once again able to take care of business and not able to get it done. Your thoughts on... Again, it was probably as predictable as you could have expected. Maybe the T-Wolves, I think they were good enough to push 7. I think the Lakers were good enough to push 5, which doesn't really say much. It's more about how good the Thunder are, more or less than how the Lakers were, to be fair. But your thoughts on the two Western Conference finals?
I think with the Thunder, the Thunder are just like really the best team in the West, and the Lakers just did not have enough to stop them. I think fouls, of course, was kind of played a factor against
fouls
the Lakers.
Against the Thunder? What? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's a factor. I think that for that series, hopefully LeBron continues to play and we'll see him next season. If not, because I just don't see him really going out like this. And Raffi, I think you can attest to it. Like you never see that greats of their sports really go out on such a low.
And it won't. And LeBron isn't one of those. There was when Tim Duncan retired. It was kind of Tim Duncan coded for him just the season ended. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm done." And it's like, "What? You didn't want a whole?" He's like, "No, I'm just going off."
And everyone's like, "Okay,
LeBron will make it very well known when it's his last year because he will announce it to everyone. He's gonna. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to. He's like, "I'm going back to Cleveland, homecoming last year." Like everyone sets the stage. He's gonna act like, "Oh, guys, I didn't want this." He wants all the attention on him naturally because he thinks he's the greatest of all time. I'm not gonna get into the whole Michael Jordan thing, but bro is not the type of guy to just go out this offseason and just be like, "Yeah, I'm done." That's not in his DNA. He's gonna make this a whole big festival and parade himself around for the entire year as his send off. So there's no way that he's just gonna be like, "Okay, I'm done now." There's no way.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that he's going to want his goodbye speech. Speaking of goodbye speeches, although they're no longer in the playoffs, I think they will be around for a while. It's the Timberwolves. This is a team that clearly showed they were meant to be in the playoffs. They played hard against the Spurs. They played well. They have depth on their team. I think that they're just missing a couple pieces that really put them over the edge. I think their players are young. Their players are developing. The Spurs, look, Wembanyama he's an alien. I don't know how else to put it. This guy's insane. Yesterday against OKC Game 1, we saw him pull up from 38 feet deep, something that Curry's shooting. Meanwhile, this guy's 7'4". That should just not... that's just insane, Raffi, for big men to be shooting threes like that. But it's really the evolution of the
40
sport.
40 points, I believe, almost 20 rebounds, too, in that Game 1 versus the Thunder last night. Just
absolutely insane.
Absurd.
Fully deserved. I think, we'll get more into depth about, the OKC Spurs series in a second, but... Again, very impressive performance by the Timberwolves, and they're a fun team to watch, Raffi. They bring a lot of energy. Anthony Edwards is fun. He's a physical guy to watch. He's got a little smack talk to him. It really is fun to watch a player like that who's an entertainer as well, but also just really good and sticks up to what he walks the walk and talks the talk too. So.
Yeah, 100%. So now let's get into the series, obviously, the conference finals, each respectively. Davian, we'll start with the Spurs and Thunder since we're on the Western Conference right now, and then we'll hop over so you can do your soliloquy on the New York Knicks. Spurs, Thunder, Davian, obviously the Spurs won last night. Very competitive game. Again, Victor Wembanyama absolutely balled out, had a fantastic game. Bro may or may not have taken not getting an MVP personally in that first game. Davian, I hope this series goes 7 because these are just two fantastic teams. Do you think it's going to go 7? What do you think are the keys for each respective team if they're looking to get to the NBA Finals? What do you think has to happen for each respective team if they want to advance or look to advance?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Spurs OKC series, to start off with that one, I think this is a series that will go to 7 most likely. I think for OKC, they just need more, like, everybody to step up. It can't be just the SGA show. And they just need to stop with the small mistakes. I think, and that goes for all teams throughout this series, throughout all, through both series, that it's the turnovers that are going to get you. It's the missed rebounds. It's giving it's giving the second chance points. That's what really gets you in the playoffs, and it gets you in any game, of course, but especially in the playoffs when it's high intensity and every moment counts. That is the biggest mistake. And like we saw the Spurs, who had like a bigger lead at the end of the game, almost choke that away by just having so many turnovers. And the same thing goes for the OKC. OKC just also needs to better game plan around Wemby, and for the Spurs, they need to make sure that they're able to play, even if Wemby is being covered, guarded, smothered. And I think we saw that yesterday with Dylan Harper stepping up, which, a name that we haven't heard since really college basketball. But here we are hearing about it in the playoffs, and that just goes to show the playoffs, anything can happen. And so that's what I'll say for that, for the Spurs and OKC. With that being said, though, if I had to make my pick, I would pick San Antonio. I think what they showed me in Game 1, I think really showed that they can really play and compete against OKC. I think it's just my thinking always was that the Spurs line up against OKC much better than the Knicks ever would. So my hope was that the Spurs would beat OKC, because I also always thought the Knicks would line up better than against the Spurs if they were to make it to the finals. And I think it's just the way that both teams are built in terms of being able to cover transition defense, transition offense. When it comes to the Spurs, I think they're better equipped to stop OKC. Give me the Spurs in 7. Now, with the Knicks. Well, Raffi, what's your pick? Even though you don't watch basketball.
Even with the Spurs win, it's hard to pick against the Thunder. This is me doing my typical, as David would call it, my Raffiing, where it's like, well, both teams are really, really good. Can go either way. Probably will go 7 games. Pretty close down to the wire.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick, it's really hard to pick against the Spurs.
That is true, yeah.
I think we all were in agreement. We all felt really good about the Thunder. I was like, okay, Thunder probably to the finals. But that Game 1, with how dominant Wembanyama played, it's really hard to pick against him right now with how he balled out Game 1.
That is true,
and bro's just not going to stop. Bro played almost like 50 minutes last night and looked fine the entire time. When I was watching bro was just like doing his thing. And then you see other guys are like gassed, they're tired, they're this and that. And bro's just like, okay, just give me the ball, put it in the net, very easy. I don't think this is a crazy take. But if you had to build a team from scratch right now and you had the whole landscape of all the NBA players, he's the first guy you're taking. He's got to be the player of choice that you're taking. I know there's like Shea, there's still Giannis, obviously Jokic, etc. But I mean, if you're building a team from scratch and you get the first pick, you got to go with Victor. Like bro is insane. So I'll go with the Spurs over the Thunder, but I wouldn't be surprised too, because it's like a pendulum. It felt like everyone was preying on the Thunder. That Game 1 happened. Everyone's like, okay, you know what? The Spurs are likely going to take this. It's going to be interesting to see now how the Thunder combat this, because they haven't really gone through much adversity. Last year, they went through a little bit, obviously, with the Halliburton and the NBA Finals, so they kind of have that somewhat familiarity with being down or kind of being, they're so out of the series. But this is going to be big for a team that really hasn't been tested yet in this postseason. And the Spurs, at least last round, they took care of business versus the Timberwolves, but that team is much better. They pushed 6 games, and I feel like the Thunder, we're going to learn a lot more about this team if they can really bounce back and still prove that they are the best team in the NBA. So I don't want to count the Thunder out because everyone else seems to be counting the Thunder out. But it's going to be interesting to see if the Thunder. I wouldn't be shocked if the Thunder bounce back and take care of things in 6, but I also wouldn't be shocked if the Spurs take it to 7. Overall, I'm doing my Raffi with the NBA.
That's fair.
Now, Cavs Knicks though, Davian, I will unite with you, which I'm going to assume that you're going to go with this team rather.
Yeah.
Give me the New York Knicks. I need to see more great Instagram reels outside of Madison Square Garden. Give me the Knicks over the Cavs.
Yeah. I love it. Raffi. I mean, look, I do want to touch on that series too. I think for the Knicks, the biggest thing is just continue to maintain the offense prowess, but at the same time, make sure that you're not you're spreading the ball. You're not relying on a single player. Your defense, make sure that you're guarding the paint well. I think that's going to be extremely hard against the teams like the Cavs. I think with the Cavs issues, the biggest thing is really the depth and the shooting trouble is really if James Harden really locks in and becomes old vintage James Harden, provides the help that he has in the past for playoff teams, I think that's really the key piece for the Cavs. It really doesn't come down to Donovan Mitchell or or Evan Mobley. I think that those guys have shown out and played well. I think it's guys like James Harden that really need to step up. Max Struss, and of course also just the bench. I think that's my biggest take on that. I do have the Knicks winning. I have the Knicks in 5. So.
Yeah, James Harden, I feel like he's had some good games though overall.
He has. No, he definitely has. But like Game 7, he just scored. I think he went. He always sucks at Game 7. That's like it's James Harden Game 7. He's never good at them. But he went 2 for 10 for 9 points, 0 for 6 from the 3. Like that's not gonna cut it against a team like the Knicks, who if they start shooting lights out, they start shooting lights out. And the biggest thing for a team like the Cavs is to not let the Knicks get red hot, because what we've seen is when they get red hot, it's just complete domination. I mean, look at Game 4 against the 76ers. I mean, it was just everything was going in for the Knicks.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to NHL. Davian, where do you want to start?
Let's start off with the Canadians, Raffi. I think that it's a very interesting series that we're about to see. In that the Hurricanes have the Hurricanes are way more rested than the Canadians, and that's, I think, incredibly important.
This is, just to jump in, Davian, fun fact.
Yeah.
Fun fact, this is tied for the longest break for a team in the playoffs in the common era. I think the team that also did like the longest streak like this was days between series and days between games in the postseason. I believe was the Oilers, I think, in like the 80s. Like that was and it was like 11 days too. So this is very unprecedented. Especially, I think the Hurricanes have played 8 games so far, naturally, because they've swept the first 2 times. The Canadians have played 14. They've almost played twice as many games in the past 30 days than the Hurricanes have. But continue.
Yeah, and so I think that's a huge factor. I mean, I think that the Canadians are a great team, but another thing that comes down to is that they're a very young team, right? So when it comes to discipline and it comes to maintaining like that cardio that you just mentioned, like I don't know if they fully have it in them. With that being said, though, I will be taking the Canadians. I think what we saw against the Sabres is really that they're gritty, they're fast, and they play really well. Especially, the biggest thing for them, I think the Canadians are really making the shots, right? You have great opportunities, you have the speed, you can make the opportunities, but you have to convert on them. And I know it sounds stupid. It's like, oh yeah, if you have the puck, make sure the puck goes in the goal. But it's incredibly important, because I think you see it time and time again, Raffi, where it's like, yeah, the team might get the shots, but if you're not converting on those shots, it does not matter. So that really comes down to the individual players on the Canadians really just really just being precise with it all. With that being said, this Hurricanes team is great, and I think that they're physical. I think that they have a lot of vets that they come with experience. They're coming with a lot of rest as well. Both that being said, give me the Canadians.
I know what everyone's saying about the rest factor. Oh, the Hurricanes are going to come out slow, etc. Maybe the first period they'll be finding their game. Things will be a little bit sluggish, but the Hurricanes have been through the postseason before numerous times. They've lost in the conference finals a lot of times. They're very good at losing in the conference finals, especially getting swept in the conference finals. They're very good at that. But I'll stop twisting the knife. I'm going with the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes take this series in 6. It doesn't bode well for the Canadiens, the fact that they just finished another grueling 7-game series, and then in quick turnaround have to now go to Carolina. They only get 1 day off in between, they get 2 days off. They get Tuesday and then Wednesday, and then they're right back to a Thursday. So yeah, the Hurricanes are going to take a period to kind of figure things out, but the Canadiens are also going to be trying to figure things out too. Really short schedule. You're already traveling to Carolina. You're already getting some practices today and then tomorrow. So the odds are really stacked against the Canadiens. And I'm going to be honest here, and I'm trying not to be a hater, because at the end of the day, you have to just push through. And I commend the Canadiens for taking care of business in both respective Game 7s. But the inexperience of the Canadiens has really shown a lot. And I feel that both those Game 7s were more of Tampa and Buffalo losing those games than the Canadiens winning those games. The Canadiens got up in both respective games, sat back 9 shots versus Tampa, and Tampa's just firing shots. They are incredibly lucky that Jakub Dobesh, who's been fantastic this postseason, stood on his head and won that game and closed that game out for them in the first round series versus Tampa. No, I'm not bitter, because I had Tampa going all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And then versus the Sabres, they played the worst 40 minutes by far from any team in the playoffs versus the Sabres in Game 7 last night. They were asking for the Sabres to come back and tie the game, and they almost blew it numerous times in the third. There was many missed opportunities, including a whistle that shouldn't have been blown. But anyways, I won't twist the knife for Sabres fans. They should feel really happy about how this season's gone for them, finally making the postseason again. But there was the Sabres. I didn't feel good about it when I went to overtime, because the Sabres played tentative in overtime. They weren't playing like they did the other 2 periods, and they weren't aggressive enough. Their defensemen didn't really activate as much, and it really showed there. And the Montreal Canadiens were able to capitalize on a turnover, get a good shot off, and they were able to finally beat Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who ESPN fails to say his name, because apparently it's really hard to say his name, and they say the wrong goalie sometimes too, and ESPN and hockey and the NHL, there's issues with it. But anyways, getting back to my point though, the Canadiens should have lost that game last night to the Sabres. They 100% should have. They got bailed out. They had their chances too, but this is still an inexperienced team. I'm going to go with the Hurricanes in 6. The Canadiens are going to be tired. Caulfield, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, that top line, they've only been producing on the power play. Outside of that, if the Canadiens win this series versus the Hurricanes, it's going to become because of that top line finally clicking 5-on-5. They only have power play points. Outside of that, they have 0 5-on-5 points. So that's going to be the big key for the Canadiens. And the Hurricanes, keep your defensive structure. Fredrik Andersen just needs to continue playing well, but I got the Hurricanes in 6. I think the Hurricanes match up better versus the Canadiens here, and I think they'll shut things down for the most part.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't have as much puck knowledge as you, but I will stick by my my
just like me and the Knicks and the Spurs, just like me with them.
Be wrong than pull Raffi. Be like, oh well, maybe the other team could win too. Like, no kidding, the other team could win. But that being said, Raffi,
one of the 2 teams will make the Stanley Cup final, Davian. Mark my word.
Raffi, that's a great prediction. That's probably the best thing you've ever said on this
podcast. Hottest take of the podcast.
With that being said, Raffi, let's talk about the West. I think this is going to be exciting. I think both teams, of course, Vegas coming in with some, as always, some stupid scandal happening as always. But got their second round pick taken the other day.
And Tortorella got fined $100,000 because he didn't want to.
I mean, like, what's new? What's new?
And then he didn't want to. Then they made the excuse like, oh, we had to get back on our flight. We couldn't make the thing. And I'm like, first off, you guys are in Las Vegas. You're playing a series in Anaheim. This isn't a long travel trip that you have to make. And second off, just talking to the press. You don't like even just being there and being like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. At least like it's like whatever. I don't. Yeah. Vegas is. A lot of people are happy because the Golden Knights were crowned as the favorite child of Gary Bettman in the NHL, and they're like they could do no wrong. And a lot of people are happy that they finally got in their place, including myself, because they were kind of acting like a spoiled brat.
Yeah, I think I think with that being said, I am gonna go with the Colorado Avalanche against the Vegas Golden Knights. Sam Malinski, Cornell Proud, I think has been, it's players like that I think are going to be key for a team like the Avalanche. I think injuries for Vegas, especially with Mark Stone, being out since the Anaheim series, clearly has not fully affected them, but I think it will affect them against a team like the Avalanche. With that, and Nathan McKinnon has been playing lights out. I mean, on a six game I think goal streak right now. I gotta go with the Avalanche. I know that's what the betting markets are also saying, and for once I will agree with Vegas. To pick the Avalanche.
Yeah, I'm going Avalanche in 5. It really felt like whoever was coming out of the gauntlet, that was Avs Wild Stars, in my eyes, was going to the Stanley Cup Final this year, and I'm going to stick with that. The top 3 in the Central were just on a different tier this year in comparison to the Pacific teams and the teams in the wild card. The Avalanche, they were going to take care of business versus the Kings. That was 100%. We all knew that. Yes, the Wild were down Eriksson Ek. Yes, the Wild were also dealing with other injuries as well, but Colorado just essentially, outside that weird game where they won 9-6 in game 1, they handled business the rest of the way. Blackwood, Wedgwood both were playing really well in net. You really can't go wrong with either of them. They have two really solid starters. And this Golden Knights team you mentioned, the injuries, Carter Hart, he did show some cracks during that series versus Anaheim. He did show some cracks also in that series versus the Mammoth as well. So I'm going to go with the better goalie here, which is on the Avs. The Avs defensively are better, and just offensively as well, again, with Mark Stone being out. I just think the Avalanche are going to take care of business. I think some people are expecting this series to go a little longer. That might just be because people just see Vegas and to say, you know what, they always go really long on series, like they have the experience, etc. But I think that this is going to be... The Avalanche, in my eyes, have crumbled the President's Trophy curse aura. If they struggled a little bit in the second round, people will be like, oh, they're a little bit shaky, but they made it out of the gauntlet. That was the Central Division quadrant of the bracket, and I think they handle business versus the Golden Knights in 5. I think it's going to be a really disappointing series where a lot of people were hoping it to go really far, and a lot of people predicted it to go far, but I don't have it going any further than 5.
Yeah, Raffi, I agree with the 5-game prediction. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I don't have that much puck knowledge. I can't really say much else besides that.
But you know what? Just like I do with the NBA, you at least you're in the loop, and that's
I'm in the loop. I know the player names here and there. I know the injuries. I know the scandals happening.
Just don't ask Davian to pronounce any Finnish hockey players. Davian, it's probably the best that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's out of the playoffs. We'll make a video of me trying. The Dallas Stars.
I think here's the thing. I think if I get 10 out of 10 right, I think Raffi gets me. I think if I get a 99% satisfaction rate, I think we can make a bet, Raffi, that you'll get me tickets to the Knicks finals once they get in there.
Davian, I don't know what you think my job is, but it is not enough to afford NBA Finals tickets for you, let alone for me. Davian, I'll get you a ticket to the watch party.
Thanks. Hey, that's already better than nothing, yeah.
But maybe they get me a beer saber. We'll do a trade. But anyway,
we could do a trade. We could trade that. Yeah, Finals ticket for a beer saber.
Exactly. But that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Davian, there's been a lot of news over the past couple of weeks, especially the past week too. So we'll be doing another podcast shortly.
Absolutely.
I'll be coming out later this week covering a lot of that stuff because there's been a lot that's happened. And as much as we love talking about the postseason, there is some tidying up that we need to do with some other stuff. Some rants will be stated. Some interesting takes will be made. So be sure to watch this video. Tune into the next one as well. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed. For Dave and I'm Raffi. Have a good one and enjoy all the conference finals that are going to be going on now. See ya.
Peace.